Looking back as this book is being released, 1970s, late 60s, it was such a humiliating thing to be known as a Hindu, even more humiliating to say one is a Hindu, much more humiliating to say one is a Brahmin. That is the time we all grew up. From this vantage point of where we are today, when we look back, this 50, 60 years of transition has been massive for a man in the autumn of his life. That such a change could take place in this country. That where the word dharma itself was reduced to a sectarian idea, we could articulate dharma in a proud and confident manner. We never thought. We all thought, in fact, it was much worse to be in RSS. I was all. I was Hindu, I was a Brahmin, I was RSS. And I had the fortune of being one of the well-known professionals in my late 20s. And I was a sought-after professional. But I was looked down upon because I was an RSS man. By my own friends, by my own clients. And to be in the media was a bloodhound. It continues to be so. And in the media, to function among editors, they will always tend to think that there is much to educate this boy. That was the situation in which I became the advisor to the Indian Express. You can understand at the time. Mulgaon ka Ajit Bhattacharya, Kuldeep Nayar, they were all the standard setters. There was pitch darkness everywhere. And that was where Naminarayan is sitting here, my colleagues in the RSS. The kind of humiliation all of us underwent at the time, we had only one hope, that this country cannot be snuffed out. Our dharma cannot be snuffed out. That there is something much deeper than what we see outside. There is an inner strength, there is a spiritual strength. That is what kept us going, not the number of people with us. We had very little support anywhere to look at, in politics, in society, in community. From there, from this vantage point, when I look back, that's what I told my colleagues. In fact, I told this to Rahul when he sent the copy of the book to me, that I am so happy that there are so many young, bright people today to do the work which was considered to be so offensive and so humiliating. So this country has come too much more than what I thought in my 20s and 30s. And I consider this book as an outcome of that ecosystem change. I was a fortunate person. I was respected in the society, in the professional circles, in the business circles. Even in the media, personally, I was respected and accepted, but not my views. It was considered to be something Neanderthal in the light of the contemporary civilization, Western civilization. So from this, I would like to share some of my thoughts about what we have been denied in respect of our knowledge about what our civilization is. Before that, I would like to mention that there is a huge change taking place in the world itself. We all started with the one-size-fits-all model which the West set out in 1951. The United Nations document for development of underdeveloped society said that you have to give up your philosophy, your value, your culture if you want to develop. This was an official declaration which had such a binding and persuasive effect all over the world, in all countries, particularly countries which were looking to development more, democracies, which had much more closer relationship with the West. And we were told, our sociology departments, our economics departments, our literature departments, they all expounded this view: unless you cease to be what you are or what you were, you can never develop. You know, it is such a powerful and persuasive argument. And that's how the whole idea of de-Hinduization of India began, because all the ills of India were put at the doors of the Hindu society, Hindu philosophy, Hindu value systems, Hindu way of life. It was not one of those social arguments or philosophic arguments. It is earthy, economic. This is called one-size-fits-all model. We all fought against it. When we ran the Swadeshi Jagran Manch campaign against globalization, when I was talking in the Administrative Staff College of India, at the time I was probably the only person articulating the alternative viewpoint, because the entire world had defected to one point, towards one side, towards one thought, towards one dress, towards one language. So when I spoke about how globalization is going to be a disaster, one person stood up and said, people like you must be shot dead because you are taking the country 500 years back. That was the atmosphere. As late as 1994. So, we were evangelized, educated, accustomed to think that we should cease to be what we are if we have to develop. The present generation will not even know the kind of pain that people underwent. I have seen very ordinary RSS workers suffering humiliation at home, in their communities, in their localities. It's 100-year penance of RSS that has produced a Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi is the cutting edge of the battle that the RSS fought for 100 years. It's not an ordinary battle. Thousands and thousands of people worked and passed away without their name being known even in the organization. Slowly, personal level, at localities, huge shift took place. And of course, Ram Janmabhoomi acted as the catalyst for the mighty energy that the RSS had generated into a mass movement. I was part of it. I'm proud that I was part of such a massive shift. And I was also deeply involved in organizing the opposition parties and fighting Rajiv Gandhi. Bofors issue came. Everything came as if it is a series of accidents moving towards a final destination, that is the rise of India. Today we are in a very different position. We are in a happy position. We are in a confident situation to fight for what our two generations had lost for us. The two generations which were born after independence failed India. The generations which were born before independence fought and died for India. The subsequent generations thought once we got freedom, we accomplished everything, and they forgot. They became IAS officers, they became lawyers, they became chartered accountants, they became professors. They lost all that spirit which drove the freedom movement. So when I was asked to write on the day on which the Supreme Court declared that there should be no Kar Seva, 3 lakh people had assembled and had to do Kar Seva. The Supreme Court said, nothing doing. You should keep quiet. So I was asked to write a statement for the BJP. In this country, all that drove the freedom movement. Whether it is the song Vande Mataram, or the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma and Hindu nationalism, or the idea of Ramarajya, all that had become not only irrelevant, but as something to be discarded if we have to move forward. And Ram Janmabhoomi represents all these three. It is recalling those virtues which the freedom movement generated, which the generations after the freedom movement lost because of their own selfish ends. People wanted to be what they are. Before freedom, everybody wanted to work for the country. I am talking about everybody means every sensible, capable, honorable and capable person. Subsequently, all became pursuing careers. When I wrote that statement, Sikandar Bhatt was one of the leaders of the BJP. He said it doesn't look like a statement. It looks like a song. You know, we were all driven by desperation on the one side and hope on the other. The single movement that transformed the country was the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. And you see the opening of the Ram temple, what it did to the country. Ram was regarded as a divisive person in 1992, in 1989, I mean, people even denied the existence of Rama. But the same Ram. 65 crore people witnessed the Ram Janmabhoomi opening ceremony. 65 crore people all over the world. People cried. In fact, that is Indian spirit. It cannot be divorced from Rama. It cannot be divorced from Hinduism. It cannot be divorced from Dharma. This is what has bound us. It's an inquiet, a completely, it cannot be discernible to eyes, which has bound us together. The length and breadth of India, which all great men have seen, but which the secular India felt was a danger to not only them, but to the entire country and to the world. So we are rising today. So I am extremely happy to participate in this function for the release of this book, which is not just political. It envelops a wide variety of ideas, issues, the challenges that we have faced and we will continue to face. I only will park 3 points for us moving forward. See, we are going to have a massive challenge. The liberal world will pose to us increasingly from outside India and within India. We have pincers, we have the reagents, we have widespread anachara, which is enveloping a very significant section of our educated people. And women are, particularly young women, are becoming victims of it. So we have to be very, very careful in facing up to this challenge. We have to build a proper narrative. We have got to ensure that we have to ensure that the contemporary world is linked with relevance to our past. Of course, it's already getting linked. In fact, much of it we do not know. So, the first thing is that we have to develop proper narratives. And I had occasion to discuss this issue with Vikram Sampath, who had come and met me. We had about 3 hours of discussion. We have to reorient the writing of our history, is something which we have been saying for the last several years. And this feeling cuts across even the political division that our history has not been written properly. We have to write it properly. But we need a theory of history. You cannot be finding human behavior through broken monuments. There is a continuity of the Indian civilization which has been denied to all other civilization, which has been accepted by even a West-centric document, Encyclopedia Britannica. It says there's 5,000-year physical continuity of a civilization on a standalone basis is the Indian civilization. This remark came from one child who was an Australian epigraphist. He said that this is standalone. It has nothing to do with the Babylonian. It has nothing to do with Egyptian. It's a standalone Indian continuity. This is not what we are teaching in our books. So this continuity, and it's not physical continuity, it is a continuity of ideas. We discussed the idea of Vedas. Vedas are supposed to be meaningless sounds. Somebody is shouting. It's going up and coming down. It has been captured in a language later. It dated pre-script period. So it is meaningless. Somebody is shouting and you keep on. 5,000 years we have kept the phonetic effect of the Vedas is something which is unbelievable in human civilization. The same sound, the same phonetic. Nobody inquired into how this happened. And they said Saraswati river is not there. And so Vedas which spoke about Saraswati river is fake. But now there is a huge hydrological and other findings which show that Saraswati indeed existed. If Saraswati existed, Vedas are not imaginary. Second, Vedas are supposed to be just sounds, meaningless sounds. But Nobel laureates, at least a dozen Nobel science laureates have said that the answers to the contemporary questions of modern science is to be found in Vedas and Upanishads. If Vedas and Upanishads contain scientific facts which the modern science cannot fathom, Vedic rishis were not poets. They were scientists. You don't understand that science. Now we are talking about a universal consciousness of which you are an integral part. Who thought of that universal consciousness that all of us are a part of? Unless we position the Indian narrative around these ideas which even the West is not only willing to accept but also willing to expound. So our narrative has to be linked to our basic sources. That's what the Prime Minister is trying to do. You see, basically, we have got to clear certain cobwebs. For example, when we had a discussion about how we should project India abroad, one of the things which we use is the word ideology. The word ideology does not fit into the Hindu civilization at all. We follow darshanas, approximately equal to philosophy. So we had a discussion in the government of India as to how we should project this. The Prime Minister took the position in America in his first visit. We don't have anything called ideology. Ideology means that what you think is right, what the other man thinks is wrong. And it is not some philosopher who spoke this. It is Bill Clinton who spoke this. There is a difference between philosophy and ideology. Philosophy thinks the other man has a viewpoint. Ideology thinks the other man is wrong. Ideology is the source of clash. Ideology is the product of Christianity. It was drawn into communism. This is the place in 1993, I delivered a lecture, 94 I think, on communism. How the whole world was mesmerized by a blind thought. It was a blind spot. That is ideology. Ideology is against any kind of enlightenment. Philosophy promotes enlightenment. All these will have to be woven into our narrative. The modern mind will capture it. The youths will capture it. The media will lap it up. 30 years before, if he had spoken like this, nobody would have minded. Narendra Modi has brought about an ecosystem change in which these thoughts will resonate with the contemporary world, contemporary people, contemporary youth. Of course, I am not one of those who says go and change the education system. Nobody can change it so long as IAS officers are there. The society will have to change the education system. Government cannot. One IAS officer putting a positive idea, another idea person will ensure it doesn't happen. This is the system we have created and suffered for the last 75 years, and we will continue to suffer because there is no alternative to it. Why I am saying all this before these youngsters is that they are much more capable of doing the kind of work that I wanted to do, could not do because of the oppressive system. There is a release for them. So I told him my hope rests on people like you, people like Vikram Sampath, people like Rahul Shivshankar. When I see all of them, I feel so happy.
You hear me every night. So I'm going to keep it short. But I want to, first of all, thank from the bottom of my heart, Mr. Gurumurthy ji. His works I have been reading for 15, even 20 years. Why did I get drawn to the likes of Gurumurthy ji, Francois Gautier, and those beautiful pages once of the Indian Express that even had someone like TVR Shenoy writing for them? Where are those people today in our ecosystem? Why was I just recently told by someone who gave me back nothing, even though I gave them my soul? And those people looked at me and they said, "What is wrong with you, man? You don't look like a Sanghi. You have aquiline features." I was shocked. I think a few days later, I called Gurumurthy ji. He knows what transpired. So we are still being censored. We are still being oppressed. You see, I come from two heritages. One is the Kashmiri side of my family, and one is the one that is in the south. Gurumurthy ji and Dr. Ranganathan, who is here, who's been a friend and a supporter and a person who has been able to expound and awaken our minds every evening, is a cohort in this enterprise. And what is this enterprise? To tell the story of the Hindu who was taken out of the Indian. I faced it. My family faced it at least one half in Kashmir. Gurumurthy ji faced it here in the south. We faced it in the north. No one talked about it. Name me one person who's gone to jail for that genocide. Name me, please. Not one. When the Babri Masjid came down, my grandmother was in my bedroom. We used to share a common bathroom. And she came and she says, "Baba, today civilization has woken." I am not here rationalizing the decision to demolish the Babri Masjid. It just became a metaphor for something. And V.S. Naipaul writes about it, and I quote him in my book. In the book that Siddharth and I wrote, we can never justify violence. We have suffered it enough. And neither does our dharma allow us. But there was an expression. And unfortunately, that was the expression. I wouldn't want an India where the majority needs to be heard on the back of such violent expression. That would be a crime. It would say more about those who are oppressing us than about us. But people ask me why this book was written. for many years I had been fixating on the phrase tryst with destiny. It enters India's collective political lexicon. I'm not going to elevate that speech to anything much more. Political lexicon through Jawaharlal Nehru's much celebrated speech delivered on the midnight, intervening night of August 14 and 15. The speech was celebrated because many friends on the center left say it was the first ever enunciation of a liberal modernist idea of India. But destiny is a function of history. We can only arrive at a place when we know from where we started. If we don't even know, we have forgotten where we started from, how do we know where we have reached? But what if a nation's history was founded on appeasing an idea of India imagined largely by its colonizers? Not just the West. Our colonization started before that. What if a nation's history was founded on an idea of India that denied us its Sanatani dharmic civilizational origins and heritage? What if those people turned to us and said it never existed? Like Mr. Gurumurthy just told us. And I come from a family where 1/4 believes this. Romila Thapar is my aunt. Karan Thapar is my uncle. They say we are not Hindus. There is nothing called Hindu-ness. What sense of destiny could such a nation aspire to when, for example, it censored its own national song, Vande Mataram, scripted by one of its greatest sons and nationalists, just because it was deemed incongruous to the sensitivities of the outlook of those that colonized and then divided Bharatvarsha? Those are the people we were appeasing. That great song that was sung on the streets of Stuttgart, we don't sing here in its totality. None of us know the words beyond 2 measly stanzas. Song was given to us by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. His acolyte gave us much more. The word Hindutva comes from Mr. Chattopadhyay's writing. But it was enunciated, it was built upon by Mr. Bose, who wrote a book by that name. And today, what can I say? That word is spat upon us like it's an abuse. What sense of destiny could such a nation aspire to when, for example, it deemed any attempt to reclaim or even appreciate the grandeur of India's Hindu civilization? Let me remind you here, through a concrete example, that Nehru opposed the rebuilding of the Somnath temple because to him it represented a dangerous Hindu revivalism. Can you believe it? It was as if the rights guaranteeing freedom to profess and practice one's religion applied to all but Hindus in this country. Let me remind you that his intellectual progeny in the Congress gave us the Places of Worship Act 1991, which hasn't still been struck down because the struggle continues, my friends. That act barred Hindus from reclaiming their most sacred places of worship for fear of alienating a community. But this same Congress ecosystem has no qualms about championing worldwide the rights of Aboriginals to reclaim their heritage, sometimes even through force. Pull down the statues, we support you. That's what's happening on campuses, in cities. And who is supporting them here? The so-called liberal left, as if we are not liberal. I never use the word liberal in the context of the left, ever. Never use it, sir. Anyone who uses it, tell them they are wrong. We are equally, if not more liberal. We are much more liberal. We don't shadow ban this book. Penguin gave us an opportunity. Let me tell you, it didn't come easy. It was a day which I'll never forget. Primanka Goswami and Vikram Sampath both came in to the office. An office which I have left because it no longer could contain the thoughts I wanted to espouse. They came and said, would you like to write a book like Rajdeep Sardesai wrote on the elections? Vikram was looking at his toes, thankfully. I said, I'm not somebody who goes to Pani Puri Wala and asks them how India is going to vote and then form my opinions. I'm not that type of journalist. I will write an ideas book. The ideas came to me, I put them on a board. That script never changed. I had to bring on Siddharth because we were given a very short timeline. It's impossible to do everything when you're doing a 24/7 job. But coming back to the point, I would like to ask you what sense of destiny could such a nation aspire to when from the very beginning, for example, it protected and appeased legally the architecture of separatism, especially Muslim separatism? Why else would it jail Shyama Prasad Mukherjee? Think about that great son of Bharat for merely leading a march into a home state that I've had to flee because of that separatist instinct. And what was he asking for? He said, इस देश में दो विधान, दो प्रधान और दो निशान नहीं चलेंगे. In other words, two constitutions, two premiers and two flags are unacceptable in our nation. They jailed him. They jailed him. The same so-called liberal left that talks about human rights, that talks about liberty of free speech, they jailed him. He died in jail. Some people say he was killed, denied best medical care. For what? For asking for one India, one law, one constitution, one identity? Why else would a state selectively codify the personal laws of only the Hindu community? Why else would a state control only Hindu temples? You're mistaken to think that the loss of political power, yes, the Congress is right now nowhere, has weakened those who hold the keys to this Nehruvian worldview. Today, when Prime Minister Modi is pivoting India back to reclaim its Hindu dharmic civilizational past, they have launched a very effective global campaign to allege that the BJP RSS is turning India into a Muslim Pakistan, a Hindu theocratic state where all others will be excommunicated, excluded, persecuted, and eliminated. Eliminated, they are saying. In 2 days, I will be speaking to Salvatore Babones, who has written reams and reams about how this propaganda thrives in the West to bring down an ecosystem here which is resurgent, an idea of India, idea of Bharat, which has been resilient for not just 5,000, but 8 to 12,000 years. It's a tradition. That fight must continue. This book is a meticulously researched argument exposing the hollowness and the malign motives behind the claims of those who thrust down upon our throats an ideology that is alien to us, that has actually morally corrupted us. Let's reclaim what was ours. Then, what was truly ours. Then we will have a tryst with destiny. Otherwise, those 3 words are hollow, ladies and gentlemen. I leave it at this. Thank you.
Because I'm considered a bit too blunt. I was invited recently by a lieutenant governor to an event on the sidelines of G20, and I promptly said that he should be suspended for 3 months. Haven't heard from him since. I was 2 weeks ago invited to a seminar on politics and beyond, and I completely blasted the judiciary, and I said the wheels of judiciary aren't just grinding slowly, they've come to a halt, it's a disgrace, the collegiate system, this and that. And only later on I realized that the person sitting next to me who had lit the lamp was the ex-Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court. I didn't even bother about whether my car was parked. I took an Uber and ran from there. No, but so I hope, Rahul, that you write a sequel and I sneak in, if not to inaugurate, just be having the pleasure to be in the audience. And what can I say about Gurumurthy ji? He honors me by saying that he is my fan, although I seriously doubt it. But what he doesn't know is that he, for me and my family, is a multi-generational fan. It's not just that I have admired him and I'm seeing him in flesh for the first time. In the 80s, my father, Professor Subramania Ranganathan, he, while inaugurating the Indian Science Congress that was held in then Madras, and I paraphrase, he said, this is the greatest collection of wisdom and intellect except when Gurumurthy dines alone. So it's a real pleasure and an honor to be in your company, sir. And when he says repeatedly that he is in the autumn of his life, none of that. He is in the spring of his life. Arafat became a father when he was 79. You still have 4 more years to go, sir. As far as Rahul Shiv Shankar is concerned, I mean, I would have had. I don't want that. Maybe winter then. I had no idea that Rahul was connected to Romila Thapar and Karan Thapar. And when he quotes Nehru's messed with destiny speech, sorry, was it tryst with destiny or? I think it was messed with destiny. But I think the fact of the matter is, coming quickly to this topic because otherwise we'll miss our flight, Rahul, would be a pleasure for me. No, I think while sitting here and thinking about what to say, because I had the honor of being there for your Delhi launch as well, and I was very laudatory about the book. I still am. But I think a few things have cropped in my mind, which is that I don't think Narendra Modi and his 2024 is a battle for Bharat. I don't think he is battling for Bharat right now. He has battled for India and he has won that battle. I think that distinction allow me to explain in the next ensuing minutes, because I think that's a very important distinction. And I am here standing here in the land where people want to eradicate Sanatan Dharma. So that battle is far from even begun. But the fact of the matter is, all the antagonists are there. Everything is loaded against the Hindus. And when Gurumurthy ji says that the owner or the relative of Indian Express cried at the consecration, she cried. Well, I also cry when I read the Indian Express. And I cry inconsolably when I read the Hindu. So it goes so some things, when you talk about multi-generation, sir, they haven't changed in 50, 60 years. No, I think the issue is much bigger. Before I come to what this battle of Bharat means, at least to me, let me explain to you how Modi has won the battle for India and why, in his vision, I am sure taking part in the battle of Bharat must have been there. It is there in every conscientious Indian's or Bharatiya's mind who loves the country. So of course he knows what Bharat means. He knows the distinction. Of course he does. But one of the most, I would say, iconic speeches that he gave that nobody has either heard or gives credence to was, he gave it in 2008-2009 when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And he said something very interesting. I don't know whether there's a YouTube thing of it, but I was lucky enough to have heard that. He said, in the next 15 years, I'm going to create a nano class. And people wondered, what is this nano class? Is it people who will be driving nano? Because at that point of time, Tatas had just moved to Gujarat, and maybe he thought in lieu of electoral bonds, we have somebody who's going to give 1 nano to each Gujarati. No. He said the nano class, so people asked him to explain. He said nano class would be the class which is just above the lowest socio-economic strata of our country and just below the lowest middle class. And if you look at each and every one of his decisions over the last 15 years, 3 years when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat and 10 years when he's the Prime Minister, and for the next 5 years before Amit Shah comes in and then Yogi comes in twice over, and then Annamalai and then Jesai. But as I said, all through Rahul will be the leader of the opposition. Not this Rahul. Not this Rahul, please. Either leader of the opposition or opposition of leader. That also a distinction has to be made. There will be no opposition then. No, sir, we would be the opposition. We need to be the opposition. I'll come to that. No, in the last 15 years, especially in the last 10 years, he has created this nano class. People have forgotten this. They're not giving him credence for this. 200 to 300 million people have this status. And I can give you the numbers and I can tell you why this is the battle for India that he has won. You see, people don't realize, and I was just going through some of the results that came out 2 days ago. And in fact, on Rahul's show, I said, why does Modi keep on winning? I mean, he's beating anti-incumbency not once, twice, 3 times over. It's unreal. This is, his opinion poll shows it's a pro-incumbency vote. Unheard of. It's crazy. Yes. It is because Obamacare, when it started in 2011, it's been 14 years, 13 years, 40 million Americans have Obamacare. Modi Care started in 2018, Ayushman. The population of people with Modi Care is more than the population of United States right now. 330 million Indians right now have Ayushman Bharat. The population more than the population of United Kingdom has undergone through Ayushman Bharat successful medical treatment. 65 million people have been treated on it. This is remarkable. 68 to 70% of our total health expenditure used to be out-of-pocket expenditure for ordinary Indians. It was the fastest way to slide into poverty. That is all by this year end set to reduce by half. This is remarkable. This is unprecedented. And all this has happened in the last 10 years, in the last 6 years. You have to go a little bit beyond just the numbers, and as it may happen because of maybe speed or stealth or whatever, the BJP and its own team do not look beyond the numbers that they have generated. So they just say, we've built 120 million toilets. We've made 110 million water connections. If you could just correct the echo, please. Thank you. We don't want to be in an echo chamber. What they don't realize is that every new toilet that has been built of the 120 million toilets has saved the family 52,000 rupees in health costs. Every toilet. Now go back and calculate. Why wouldn't people be grateful to Modi or to the government? Every new tap connection has reduced the health costs that used to be given for combating waterborne infections. Diarrhea deaths under 5 have reduced by half in the last 9 years. Even I did not know these numbers. You have to dig a bit deeper. It's not just enough to say we've built so many toilets, we've built so many tap connections. What is the result? Why are people happy with a tap, with a toilet? It's because their lives are being their lives are being transformed. This is the battle for India. So when Modi gives gas connection to 100 million 100 million gas connections. He's not just giving a cylinder. He's actually saving 150,000 lives every year, because household pollution is the biggest mortality factor, child mortality factor. People don't know this. Most infants die not because of some born virus or some cholera or something. They die because of household cooking pollution. This is what he has done in the last 10, and I can go on. There are other figures as well. They are a bit subsidiary to life-saving schemes. Mudra loans, 430 million Mudra loans, homes, 44 million homes. That's a welfare thing. But the fact of the matter is, this, perhaps, I haven't met him, perhaps this was his vision, that before this battle of Bharat commences, before the battle commences, where the battle only commences when all our stomachs are full, when these are the issues, when the people who are going to fight already have a toilet, already have a tap water connection, already have a gas cylinder, they don't need the government. That battle that those people are going to fight is going to happen after 15 years. I think this is what he thought. Because there's no point, Rahul, reading and imbibing this book or the book that I have written about Hindus in Hindu Rashtra. No point preaching to a man who says, it's all very well, you want Hindu temples not to be under state control, but I don't know where my next meal is coming from. I don't know where my wife or my husband is going to be hospitalized. Let me please worry about that first. That is the battle that Narendra Modi has fought. But sooner or later, you are going to have enough gas connections, you're going to have enough toilets, you're going to have enough tap water, enough homes, enough health insurance. Then what do? You've created a nano class. That nano class will move upward, will come lower middle class, aspirational, will move to middle class. You will create a 400 million strong Indian middle class. Your GDP per capita will rise to, it's now 6,000 PPP, maybe 10,000 middle income economy. What are those people going to do then, when the stomachs are full, when they are educated? That is when they are going to fight for the issues that we are talking about. And that is why we are woefully, as a country, ill-prepared for it. And that is why I'm never going to be invited again, because I'm going to say this, that yes, the RSS has worked tremendously over the last 100 years. Gurumurthy ji says it has drunk poison, absolutely no doubt about it. But its sword has been blunted. Everyone should realize it. Because when an organization whose motto is to work for Hindu interests says that just give us 3 temples, we're not worried about 1,800 or 40,000 temples, they are demolished. You know it, that you've lost the battle. You've lost the battle for Bharat when you're not worried about 39,997 temples. To lose sight of the first principles and to get justice through them is to be blunted, is to be guilt-tripped, almost into this morass or abyss of self-loathing. And that is what has happened. And I disagree with Gurumurthy ji when he says the new generation, I have hope. No, sir, your generation had bigger stalwarts than our generation has. Sitaram Goyal ji, so many others, so many, you included. Why did you lose that battle? You didn't lose it because you didn't work hard. You're working 10 times harder even now than we are. The point is the ignorance that we are wallowing in. Since that messed with destiny speech, our senses were deliberately blunted, and it's very appropriate that Rahul took the example of Somnath consecration when Nehru feared Hindu revivalism. And if you look in the ensuing 70-75 years, every step of the way, Hindus, their rights have been trampled on, their demand for rights have been blunted to such an extent that now Hindus don't even feel that they should stand up and approach the courts to give them their demolished temples. You see, it is one thing that in a democracy, the most sacred right is to be able to knock the doors of justice, of the courts, and to seek justice. If that cannot happen, then it is not a democracy. But for the last 30 years, Hindus cannot even approach the court. I don't care if the justices say, well, this temple shouldn't go to you. That's fair enough. They have deliberated and they have come to a conclusion, like in the Ayodhya judgment. Had it gone 5-0 against, one would have respected that. Because yes, that is the judge's opinion. Do what you may of it. But the fact that a Hindu cannot even approach the judge, cannot approach the bench, how is this still a democracy? But forget asking UPA or Nehru or Indira or Rajiv. For the last 10 years, it is supposedly a government elected by the Hindus for the Hindus. And Hindus are not asking to discriminate against people of other faiths. They're just saying stop discrimination against us. Stop. It's not a question of appeasement. It's a question of apartheid. When you talk of Waqf Act, when you talk of Places of Worship Act, when you talk of the fact, as Rahul did, that the Supreme Court says we are not going to open the cases of atrocities against the Kashmiri Hindus that happened. And then 6 months down the line, the Supreme Court opens an SIT into the atrocities committed against the Sikhs in 1984 that happened 7 years before the atrocities in 1990. Is this actually a democracy? Forget about justices for Hindus. These are justices for humans we are talking about. If that is being denied, then I'm afraid you've lost the battle of Bharat even before you've entered it. And I'll tell you how you've lost it. I'll give you a few examples. You've lost the battle of Bharat even before you've entered it, when the Chief Justice or the Justice of the Supreme Court, former Justice, says that this, where there is dharma, there is victory, the motto of Supreme Court is wrong. It should be removed. This is the Supreme Court Justice saying it. You've lost the battle. Let's admit it. You've lost the battle when every time you celebrate Tipu Jayanti, you've lost the battle of Bharat. That monster who killed hundreds, lakhs of Hindus, demolished 800 temples, converted lakhs. His own words from his own manifesto says, annihilation of the infidel is my sacred duty. And you're celebrating him. You've lost the battle of Bharat. You lost the battle of Bharat when the nearest railway station to Nalanda is named after the person who set fire to Nalanda, Bakhtiyarpur. And you don't change it in the last 10 years. It's not a question of changing or not changing the textbooks. It's a question of realizing what is right and what is wrong. It's a question of asking, is there or would there ever be a Hitler Road in Tel Aviv? If there isn't, then why was there a Aurangzeb Road in Delhi? Why there still is Babar Road in Delhi? Why? That's the question that has to be asked. And I think when the Prime Minister celebrates St. Francis Xavier, when the Prime Minister gives a chadar to the person who said destroying Hindu temples should be my aim, is my aim, you've lost it. The fact of the matter is we've lost this battle of Bharat every single day because our senses have been blunted. How do we awaken this sense? It's not easy. It's not easy because I am not one for a bottom-up approach that invariably leads to, for example, the spring that happened, the Arab Spring or revolution, faulty bloodshed. I'm for top-down. The role of the people should be to elect the people who promise change, who promise they will deliver this. And if those people don't deliver it, then you don't expect a billion people to rise up and say, okay, we will bring the change. They brought the change by bringing in the government. If the government stops working for you, the alternative is not for you to hit the streets, which is what the left does. No, that would destroy the country. The only reason why the Battle of Bharat has not begun is A, because the Battle of India has been won, but not completely. But more importantly, it is because the Hindus themselves haven't realized that we have to enter this battle. Otherwise, we will not survive. I will give you one small example before I end. You see, many people feel, why should temples, what great would happen if the temples are taken out of state control? 100,000 temples, lakhs of acres. My good friend T.R. Ramesh could be arrested any moment, the kind of amazing work that he's doing for us. Same goes for Vishnu Jain. These are the real people, Gurumurthy ji, who are working for us. And according to him, what should be fetching 6,000 crores to the Tamil Nadu government every year through rent that it sets on the Hindu temples and the land that it controls. It fetches not even 1%, 58 crores. So that 5,900 odd crores that should be rightfully belonging to Hindus is just gone, is evaporated. Now, why should, you may say, well, okay, all right, this country loses hundreds, lakhs of crores of money, it's go down the drain. Why worry about it? I'll tell you why worry about it, because, and this is why I never denigrate or lament anybody who takes rice bag and converts. I am speaking metaphorically. Because given a choice of certain deaths of your wife or your husband, or your son cannot go to a school, or it needs to be hospitalized, or you don't know where your next meal is coming from, why wouldn't I take a rice bag? Why wouldn't? It's a question of survival. It's a question of choosing a hospital or dying. It's a question of being uneducated all your life or choosing a school. But all the churches, their money, all the mosques, their money goes into building tens of thousands of schools and hospitals, which the Hindu temples are being denied. So that leaving the fold and entering somebody else's religion can be stopped if only there were tens of thousands of Hindu temples, schools being run by them, hospitals being run by them. Why would one feel the need to take rice bag and convert? This is what we have to understand. But have we understood it? I doubt it. So I shall leave on that rather despondent note, but in the hope that things improve for the better and that Rahul, my dear friend, writes a sequel. Thank you so much.